82, where my guests are so stealthy today that you might even miss the fact that they're on the show because they're ninjas. They're WP ninjas. Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you? Doing well.
Doing all right.
Splendid.
Well, I've got, first of all, thanks for everybody for tuning in. If you want to, today I tweeted out the link to the actual Google Hangout versus, of course, you can always watch over at officehours.fm, but some people were reporting on mobile devices. They were having trouble getting the video on my site. So, yeah, so you can check that out over at Google Plus or also on YouTube. We are all over the interwebs. So if you would like to ask James and Kevin some questions throughout the show, you can do that by using the hashtag OfficeFM on Twitter or the Q&A app over on Google+, if that's where you're tuning in. And with that, let's get some introductions going. So James, we'll start with you. Tell us what you do.
All right. Well, my name is James, obviously, and I am the co-founder and CEO of the WP Ninjas, who we are probably most well known for Ninja Forums. And if we are not known to you for Ninja Forums, shame on you. But other than that, yeah, we just have a little product company here in Cleveland, Tennessee. So that's kind of what I do. I handle all the business side of WP Ninjas.
Do you always have to specify that it's Cleveland, Tennessee, and not Cleveland, Ohio?
I do, but I don't think I should, because Cleveland, Tennessee is the first Cleveland within the United States. So I don't feel like I should, but Cleveland, Ohio somehow is a little more well-known for some strange reason. Maybe, I don't know.
That jerk town.
Hey.
And Kevin, introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Kevin, and I am the CTO, co-founder of WP Ninjas. I wrote most of the code for the current version of Ninja Forums. I have a master's and almost a PhD in Roman military history, so if you want to talk about Roman history, we could do that too. And I am making a transition here from writing a lot of code to managing developers, so that's fun.
Okay, you're definitely the first person on the show with extensive knowledge in Roman military history.
Good.
So, I don't know that we're going to get a lot of questions from our viewership about that, but should we? I'm thrilled that I've got guests on today that can answer those. So you guys go way back. Like, are y'all childhood BFFs?
No, not exactly. I, for a while back, several years ago, was pastoring a church. And as I was pastoring that church, Kevin and his wife happened to start coming because his family started to get connected to our congregation. So he showed up one Sunday, and that was kind of how we met. I think somehow we became friends because he invited me over one day to play Halo. And I was like, I'm not really a video game guy, but I got involved in that with him, and we kind of just started to build and develop a relationship, and I was always doing side web projects, and he just has a great programmer's mind, so he just dove into stuff that I was working on automatically. So, Kevin, do you have a different perspective of that?
I guess not. I won't question the official. I won't question the official narrative. That's pretty accurate. We found that we had fairly common interests. My wife is much more indulging in letting me do nerdy things like play video games, and so my house was sort of a retreat for James to be able to go and play video games.
I'm not allowed to do nerdy things at my house.
This was
cue sad sound.
This was several years ago. And actually, it was James that got me into WordPress because I was, in addition to my Roman history stuff, I have a degree in math as well, and so I was doing computer science at the time, and then kind of fell into programming, and James said, hey, I've been trying out this thing called WordPress, and James is an evangelist for everything, so I let him work on it for a few months before I got into, because James will start things and get really excited about them and then not ever touch them again. So do you have a different perspective on that?
No, I am a bleeding edge early adopter, whatever you want to call me. I get excited about things quickly, and then Twitter's in one of those things. I got in really fast, really quick. Got bored of it for a while, and then finally came back to it. So I do tend to become very excited about things, and then if they don't work out, they don't work out. I just move on. But WordPress is kind of stuck around. We've known each other for I think it's been about 13 years when we first kind of connected. So.
Well, it sounds like a very natural partnership for you guys, that you balance each other well. I mean, do you have
I'd
any
like to think so.
obscure, James? Do you have any obscure PhDs, almost PhDs, and
No, I am, I don't even, to be honest, like I went to community college for 2 years. That was the extent of my college education. I was homeschooled from fourth grade on until I went to college. So it was kind of a different dynamic for me. So it's actually kind of funny because when I started hanging around with Kevin, a lot of his friends were from the university, and so I'm hanging around with all these people that are like really super smart, and I'm like, I don't belong here. Like this feels a little weird because they are all well learned individuals, whereas I'm kind of I don't know, street smart maybe. I don't know.
well, don't sell yourself short. I've enjoyed having some conversations with you in CaboPress, which for those of you tuning in, that was a few episodes ago. I was absent because I was in CaboPress, but I had a pre-recorded show with Jennifer and Brian Bourne. And CaboPress was basically like a mastermind event. Some really smart people. I'm surprised that they even let me in. But the backdrop to all of this was Cabo San Luca in a resort. So it was beautiful. So
Yeah.
we're floating in the pool and talking about ways that we can grow our businesses, which is just, I don't know what better possible setting to do that in. And Kevin, I suppose you're jealous that you were...
Yeah, I heard about all the pools when I got back. I heard about the fact that everything took place in pools, and James, he let us know that that's where he was.
Now, understand, he had an ultimatum. He didn't make a big deal of the fact that I was going to Mexico for a business trip, which really was, it was absolutely a business trip, and we got like huge insight, great conversations, but it was so much of a vacation as well. So with that in mind, he had an ultimatum. And Kevin, do you want to share the ultimatum? Like, you're the deal?
Yeah, my ulterior motive was that if James is going to CaboPress, then I'm going to WordCamp Europe next year. So that's the deal.
Nice.
I actually did my master's and most of my PhD that I've not finished yet in England. So I'm going to take the opportunity to go back and visit friends. So that was fine. He can go and do that,
Yeah.
and I'll go to Europe.
Excellent. I would actually love to make it to WordCamp Europe next year. Well, I do later on in the show. I do want to get into some of those insights that you got at CaboPress and tease those out. And for those of you listening, if there's a CaboPress 2016, strongly consider going.
Yes.
A great opportunity if you're kind of looking for the next step in your business. We got some.
Not too many of you. Not too many of you, because I don't want you taking my spot.
Well,
So-
that's true. Don't stand between me and my margaritas, but
That's right.
maybe 3 or 4. Jackie wants to know, James, what microphone you have, and I think you might have. Are you sporting the Rode Podcaster?
Yeah. Yeah, you and I have the same microphone. Look at that.
Boom.
Yeah, so it's this thing's awesome. I love it.
Well, here's the most obvious question that you probably have people ask you, and Devinder's actually already touched on it on Twitter. But you have this powerhouse of gravity forms that's been in the WordPress space for, I don't even know when Carl started that, but for a long time, a very established premium forms plugin. How did you come to decide, oh, we think we can build an equally good or differentiated product, and this is a good idea?
Yeah. The answer surprises people accidentally. is kind of how we came across it. So when I started getting involved in WordPress, up until then I had been building Flash websites, static websites, like just nothing too fancy. And as I started to get into WordPress, I had taken on a client, local chapter of Junior Achievement in our area, and they had a very specific need of being able to have different registration forms for different events that would change on the fly. Some would have 4 teams of 4 players for a bowling tournament. Others would be just a banquet dinner. Another would be, a +1. And so the forms had to be different, tied to a specific event. And I wasn't well versed enough in the plugin ecosystem of WordPress at that point to know that what was available. And I needed something that I thought was flexible for us, and they were on a limited budget, so Kevin and I kind of talked it through and just built what was, I would say, 0.01 of Ninja Forms way back when, probably in 2010 is when we did that. And that was kind of, once we had it built, we thought, I wonder if anyone else would like this. And then that's when we started doing the research and saw, oh, well, there's Gravity Forms, there's all these other form plugins. We'll kind of throw it out there. We'll polish it up a little bit for more general use, and we'll just put it out there like really cheap and see if anyone wants it. So that's kind of how it started.
And what was your move to then offering it as, well, just for listeners that aren't familiar, so Gravity Forms, you buy a license and you get all, as long as it's the they have different tiers, but their highest developer tier has integrations with Stripe and PayPal and other tools, whereas Ninja Forms is the freemium model, very similar to like what Easy Digital Downloads does, where the core product is free, but then you pay for the specific add-ons, kind of an a la carte feature style. So how did that just naturally evolve because you'd already set the plugin out there for free initially?
Well, no, because actually initially it was a paid-only product. So this shows our business acumen as we got started. We built this plugin, we launched it, and we said, well, everyone else out there, we knew how expensive Gravity Forms was. We'll just sell this for $15, all in lifetime license.
Was that an arbitrary number?
Yeah, we just pulled that one out of nowhere. Like we just said, we'll try it. It's cheap. It's I think in the beginning, because we didn't know we were going to be getting into a WordPress business at that point, we thought, it's kind of a throwaway. People try it out. If they like it, they'll stick with it, and if not, they move on. No big deal. We'll figure it out.
Also, at that point in time, I was in grad school, and you were still working here. So we didn't have a business at that point. We were just trying to get things off the ground. So it wasn't like we had a grand scheme to like James said, we didn't think about having a WordPress plugin business. We didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, Kevin and I have been trying to start a business for years and years and years together. And we had done, like I said, we'd done some Flash and template stuff. We had built a catering database system out of Access for a local restaurant.
That is frightening.
It was frightening. I remember spending a day going door to door into businesses with door hangers and business cards, trying to do some graphic design work and build something. So we've been through it all trying to start something, and I feel like Ninja Forms discovered us more than we discovered it, so to speak. So we got it out there. And in the first 6 months, we launched it in June of 2011. In the first 6 months, we made maybe $3,000, I think, in sales. And then we knew we needed to make some changes. So in December, we said, well, let's try to do some promotion with the freemium model. So that's when we transitioned to freemium. Was in December of 2011. Launched a light version with a pro upgrade and raised the price to a whopping $29. And that was our kind of testing the waters of the freemium model. So we went from the premium to the freemium with just a pro upgrade, just a single upgrade path.
Did you have any? So what about your customers that were at that original $15 price point? Were they grandfathered into this?
Yeah, we grandfathered them all in. So that changed them. And so we were actually maintaining 2 plugins now. We had the light version and the pro version. So technically the ones who were grandfathered in had the Pro and they just stayed on Pro, and it was not a big deal for us to kind of grandfather those people in. But throughout 2012, we only probably did about a little over 10,000 the entire year in sales, so it wasn't like a dramatic increase in sales. It was, it grew a little bit, but not a lot. I think our best month was usually around $1,200 in a month. So it was enough to kind of keep the operation going and handle a few extra hours to handle support when they came in, or the technologies that we were using. But it's interesting that you mentioned easy digital downloads, because I had built just kind of a little makeshift PayPal shopping cart for Ninja Forms myself, and was looking for a better shopping cart experience. And so I remembered Pippin had just recently released easy digital downloads, and I started looking around at all the add-ons that I would want to make this work the way we needed. And that's when I kind of had this epiphany from people that I had talked to who were, what we found out is that our users weren't using all of those features that were baked into Pro. They only needed like one or two different things. And so I started looking at easy digital downloads, and I said, I feel like this could really apply to the forms space. So I kind of pitched it to Kevin, and he had already been rewriting Ninja Forms to what is currently 2.0 to be like really extensible and kind of plug and play with various add-ons. So he just had to kind of keep in that direction and start pulling features out into add-ons. But it was easy digital downloads that actually kind of gave us the idea.
Ah, cool. Do you talk to Pippin much? Are y'all in the same?
Yeah. So we reached. So yeah, I mean, currently I'm in a mastermind with him. So we meet on a bi-weekly basis with him and a couple other people. We talk regularly throughout the week anyway, because our businesses are so closely related. Almost any time I need something, it's probably something that Easy Digital Downloads needs as well. So it's a good collaboration. When I have a problem, I can go to him and say, so this is my trouble I'm having, and he's like, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to solve that as well. Well, great. So now I don't have to solve it. We can solve it together, or come up with some solutions, or I can wait until you figure it out. So yeah, we talk frequently.
Cool. He's a great guy. A lot of respect for him. So let's go rewind to where you've decided 15 too low. We're going to try out the freemium model. Did you have a marketing plan, or did you just kind of do it and hope people noticed? Or
no, that's the thing. That's why I say Ninja Forms discovered.
What's a marketing plan?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Like we have all kinds of plans now, but man, back in the day, like I was on the WordPress Weekly podcast, and they were like, so what kind of, did you find your market fit? Did you like spy out the competition? I'm like, no, I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't know if anyone would buy it. We built it because a client needed it, and then just kind of it evolved from there. So yeah, it was kind of a bizarre thing for us.
Oops. I had Troy Dean on for an interview last week, and he was telling me about the first product that he ever did, which was sort of a learn WordPress, basically just learn how to use the post pages and the basic editing tools. And he said they similar pricing model, in that he just threw it like spaghetti, and tried something out, and a similar approach to marketing is what you're saying. And I've heard that now multiple times, and part of it sounds like being in the right place at the right time. And I mean, you guys were already in the mode of, hey, we want to start a business, we just don't know what it is. And then it sounds like WP or Ninja Forms kind of naturally became that. But it's interesting to me that a lot of people in the world that have more mature products in this space had that kind of start. And I don't know that if you introduced a product at this stage of WordPress's growth, if that would still be the case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I don't know what the clear answer to that is, as far as I think a lot of times when we get started, especially if you're not already in a community, like that's the thing, the WordPress community is so open. And now if I have questions about pricing or what is a good business model or anything like that, there's a gazillion people I can reach out to who will gladly take the time to hash it out with me, and for free. And that's kind of awesome, right? But when you're not in that community, you don't have that, and you just look at examples. And I think that's what we did, and I think that's what a lot of businesses do when they come in. So I agree that I don't think you can just kind of throw prices at the wall now as easily as you could maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago. But I think there's also a lot more examples to follow that can hopefully guide you in the right way. We made the stupid mistake in the beginning of doing all in, one-time fee, and we all know now, right? And we've known that for years, that that's not a sustainable business model. But back in the day, everybody was doing it. So we followed what everyone else was doing because we didn't know any better. We learned quickly, but that's part of the process, I think.
Oh, well, that's a great point. We have certainly had the opportunity to now look back with some 20/20 hindsight and see what
exactly
what didn't work. I've got a comment from Jackie that just appreciation for actually talking about real numbers. So thank you for your transparency in that. Let's see. We've got so Deventer asked, and we're going to go back to the I guess the Gravity Forms, or really take any other form software, but that's probably the most obvious. Like, what would, if you have an entrenched Gravity Forms user, what would be maybe the differentiating factor or the draw to try out Ninja Forms?
Sure. There's a number of issues that come up from there. One of the things that a lot of people are drawn to Ninja Forms for is that it is fully open source, in the sense that not just once I have it, I can do what I want with it, as in the GPL, but it's on GitHub, and you can patch it, you can submit ideas. If you think we're doing something wrong, you can let us know, and we can hash it out and discuss it. And there's a community there that holds us accountable, so it's not just us strong-arming our product saying, no, we don't want to do that. We are looking for best practice. So that's a big one. Another one we hear a lot of is just, I don't know, because again, I'm not obviously not a Gravity Forms user, and that would be weird if I was. But I do hear a lot that they find Gravity Forms is more difficult to style, and they fight with Gravity Forms fairly opinionated styles, and I think Carl's actually been clear on why they have those opinionated styles, and it makes sense. But ours, we've tried to take the opposite side of that and be extremely unopinionated. We have a few structural things for label positioning, but other than that, if your theme styles field elements properly, it should just look great. Like, there should be no problem. So we get a lot of that. But the other big thing is the add-on model, I think, is a big catalyst for why we've taken off. People like being able to buy just what they want when they want it. And if they just need conditional logic, or they just need MailChimp, or they just need that one little thing for their site, they don't have to buy this big license necessarily from another product to do that. And it's not that those products are bad. Those products are great products. That's why the form ecosystem is growing and thriving so well, is all of these products are really top notch. So those are a few of the reasons. Kevin, do you have any that stand out to you?
I'm just here to answer technical questions. No, I think.
Sorry.
I think the open source thing is a big one for me, and we've had lots of developers, for example, who say, "Hey, it'd be really nice if we had an action hook here or a filter here," and they can go to GitHub and add that and submit a pull request, and then we merge it in, and then they have that. So that kind of open contribution is I think my favorite part.
Very cool. So I could go potentially right now and do a pull request on a feature, and voila. I mean, so long as it was, made sense and whatnot.
It might be a little tougher right now because we're so entrenched in 3.0, which changes dramatically a lot of how Ninja Forms functions and operates and how you hook into it. But yeah, I mean, essentially, at any point, somebody can just do that pretty quick.
Yeah, by dramatically, you mean completely rewrites the code base. That's what you mean by dramatically.
Well, I was trying to be nice, but yeah. What you say?
Well, So I have a feature request, and it's not on the
Okay.
product side; it's on the billing side. So have you guys ever used Flywheel hosting?
I haven't. I'm familiar with them, and I'm familiar with some of what they're doing.
So the thing I really love about Flywheel is the way that they handle billing for clients. So as the developer, I can go in and create the account for my client, and then transfer billing to them, so that the financial relationship is between Flywheel and my client. Yet I have full access to their account. Uh, when so here's the problem. Back in my earlier days, I mean, I bought the Gravity Forms developer license, love it, used it on a million projects, and I never made my client buy that license. I just always used my license, which of course is a problem if at some point I don't maintain that or whatnot. So the idea of being able to put that layer in where, as a developer, I could go in and purchase the Ninja Forms modules that I needed for my client, but the billing, the renewal notices, all of that would go directly to the client. Can you whip that up by next week?
So I have good news and bad news. I'll start with the bad news first, which is no, I cannot whip that up next week. But the good news is, and this comes back to the relationship that we have with Pippin and Easy Digital Downloads, because we use Easy Digital Downloads to sell everything that we have. So we are well entrenched into that platform as far as add-ons and stuff. And that is a common thing being discussed even among the software licensing add-on, of how to handle having multiple contacts for the same licenses, where one may be a technical contact and the other is a billing contact. And so that, I think, is in line with what you're talking about. So it's a problem that's on the table that we are actually all aware of, and we are actually working on it. It is something that's being worked on. So at the very least, the answer is someday.
Well, hey, that's better than that's a terrible idea. We'll never implement it. Goodbye.
Exactly.
Well, Kevin, I have a technical question for you, and James, you're certainly welcome to pipe in too. But so there's this issue where you're dealing with probably who knows how many different server configurations, right? So
Correct.
your forms are just a layer on top of whatever fantastic or whatever hideous mail server situation is on the back end of that. Why is that? Why so many contact form plugins have issues consistently getting email notifications out, or is flaws within the plugins themselves?
Well, it's exactly why. Every mail server and every host is going to have a different setup. And for us, we have a series of troubleshooting things that we go through with our users to fix that, and in the end usually suggest that they go with something like Mailgun or Mandrill or an SMTP plugin. So it's not something that a plugin author can really predict. If you're on GoDaddy, their email setup is a certain way, and there are a couple of hosts that require your from address to be formatted in a certain way before it will send email. But there's no way for us to detect that as a plugin author. I can't say, hey, are you on Bluehost? So we kind of have to live in that world, and that's one of the areas I think that we're going to try over the next year to really figure out how we can mitigate against those kinds of issues.
I've used Mandrill as a way to overcome that in some instances, but yeah, it's a definite frustration, mainly because you don't know what's happening until a client is like, haven't got any sales notifications in a while, and then you log in and there's a back pile, and their customers are mad at them, and so they're mad at you, and
we deal with that a lot of support. So our support people deal with that quite a bit. We're actually working with, I think it's Mailgun right now. Our customer manager is on vacation right now, but he is dealing with working with Mailgun to see what we can work out with them as far as figuring out what we can ship in the core of Ninja Forms to make that more sturdy. make email sending more sturdy and make it switchable from your mail, from your server's mail sending to Mailgun or whatever we go with easier. So it's a one-click switch. Like, oh, my emails aren't going out. Click, try Mailgun, something like that. So that there's not another plugin to go through or an add-on to add to make that work. It's just something in core that you can flip a switch.
That would be very cool because it is a difficult problem to troubleshoot because you don't know at what point the malfunction is occurring. Cool. Glad that's in the mix. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about CaboPress, which I hate that I'm talking about something that I know most people listening were not a part of, but what I'm hoping to do is that by talking about it is to bring some of that experience out for users. So to kind of paint the picture, there were 4 or 5 hosts to CaboPress, Chris Lima, Syed Balki, Corey Miller of iThemes, Kareem Maruki of Crowd Favorite, and each of these guys kind of has their own areas of their expertise. And Syed, for instance, is the master of affiliate marketing. So I swam in his corner of the pool most of the time, getting some, learning some knowledge from him. But James, if you would be willing to share, I would love to hear what your biggest takeaways were.
Well, some of our biggest takeaways were we're not doing enough interacting with our customers on the front end of a business relationship. So what happens now is a lot of times people buy a product from us, we'll send them their receipt and some instructions on their license keys, and we probably won't ever hear from them again unless they have a problem. They'll reach out to us, or a year later we send them an email to renew their licenses. And this is a real problem because it establishes no relationship between us and them. And we've known this is a problem, but just having some of these conversations with some of these other businesses and how they've handled customer relationships and customer retention, I realized that we as a company have left a lot on the stress on the product. And while we think the product is great, the whole stress is on the product to make people renew, not the fact that we are adding value to these users by giving them resources to do their forms better beyond the product. So for me, a lot of it is how do I create a better customer flow and a better customer experience from purchase to renewal, that in-between time, and hit them before they come to us with a problem. So before they have that thing that breaks or that email issue that they can't track down, and they like, hey, Ninja Forms isn't sending any of my emails, and then we have to explain, if it were only that easy, right? Like, it was only that easy that Ninja Forms was broken, but it's not. If we can touch base with them earlier and establish a sense of trust, which we want because we want them to trust us, not because we want them to renew, but because we want to help them. That's kind of the mission statement of our company, is to help others be successful. And we're not doing that if we wait until they come to us because they have a problem. So that was one big one. Another one was affiliates. So I was also one of those people who sat inside session, especially on affiliates, and it's a struggle too because Pippin's got a great product, Affiliate WP. We use it. We use it for Ninja Forms. That's our affiliate program. Syed is a very strong proponent of share a sale, for good reasons, for fraud, for management. And he definitely in his talk convinced me that I probably need to move to that platform. Of course, I hate that because Pippin's a friend. I love supporting his product. So the dummy me, I'll probably just buy Affiliate WP and keep my license renewed just to support that product further. But those were some big ones. I think that to me the big one was managing customers, and then there was a lot of culture talk. So in Corey Miller's session, talked a lot about company culture and figuring out how we stop wasting time on the 80% of things that don't push the company forward, and how do we get our team focusing just on that 20% that's having the biggest impact. So those are a couple of the things that, as far as just a kind of a general overview that we discussed, that I took back and said, yeah, there's some changes that need to be made.
Wow, great takeaways, and I think that you and I are in thinking along the same ways on a couple of those the client, or excuse me, customer relationship was huge to me, because I realized that I've had these great intentions, like if somebody buys my theme, a week later I've got an email that goes out that's got some tutorials and blah blah blah.
You're
But
already doing
beyond
better
that,
than us.
what's that?
You're already doing better than us.
But that was it. And that email,
you have
honestly,
an email that goes out.
that one's probably already out of date. But there's people. Syed actually does, no surprise, he does a great job of this. Migrate DB Pro does a great job of this, where they're continually sending emails, and not big salesy, annoying, please buy more add-on sort of emails. It's ways to, hey, you bought our product, let me show you some cool things that other people are doing with it. Let me show you some things that you may have not thought of that you could do with it. I know there's so much value I could add to people who have already spent money with me, and it made me sad that I haven't taken the time to do that yet. So that was a huge, big action item that it's actually on a notepad on the kitchen table right now that I need to take care of. So I can relate to you in that.
Yeah.
So
that's a big one. The other part of that too is not even that, is learning how to properly segment your market. So Ninja Forms has a wide market segmentation, because we have the free user, right, who probably only uses Ninja Forms for a contact form, or something that just needs a few more fields than they can get from something like Jetpack. And then we have users who are kind of running their own business, or starting their own side project, and they just need an add-on or two, all the way up to developers and freelancers and agencies who are implementing really powerful front-end applications using Ninja Forms as their framework to do that. And we don't do a very good job of providing each of those segments the information that they need. For the longest time, the only pricing page we had was an add-ons page. And you just had to find a bundle if you wanted it in the mix of all those add-ons, all the individual add-ons. And so we actually built from CaboPress. Came back and built a pricing page that says, okay, here are the tiers of segments that we see as users, and here's what we offer each of you in that tier. So that was another one as far as adding that value and kind of pushing that forward. So
curious, have you seen any difference in sales conversions or impact on support questions or anything since making that change? I know that hadn't been very long.
Yeah, it hasn't been very long. I mean, I have seen, there's a few things that we did. We had a features page, and it's funny because Ninja Forms sells add-ons, but the features were all about what the free plugin did. Like, here's all the stuff you get in the free plugin, which is great. I mean, we want people to know about all that stuff. But what it ended up doing was we realized that most people who came to Ninja Forms came because they had already installed it from .org, or they found us on Google and they wanted to know about prices, and that was not clear, so they had no idea. So the first thing I did was ran an A/B test on if I put a pricing page or kind of a pricing table, and is it called features or is it called pricing, and which converts better? And by far, pricing converted like 50% better than if it said features. So apparently, when people come to your site, they want to know how much it costs right out of the gate. So we started doing that. So that could hurt us on some level, right? Because our highest package is the highest in our market. Like, and as far as our product market, we're the most expensive one out there. We don't shy away from that anymore. We used to try to sweep that under the carpet, like we don't want to make a big deal about it, but we are a little more expensive, but we have a lot of value packed into that. So we're pretty proud of the products that we're offering as far as that's concerned. But I have found that we are getting better questions and more clear and concise questions, at least on pre-sales, because we have a better laid out pricing page. So that much I've seen so far. Sales have been on an uptick from moving out of the summer, but I don't know if that's moving out of the summer or because we changed our pricing, our pricing table. So.
That's some great data, and of course reminding me of another takeaway of mine from CaboPress, which is do some damn A/B testing.
Yes.
Which I just kind of forget the importance of. Again, it's one of those things that it's hard to spend time on your own business when you're doing things for other folks. But Okay, awesome. Great discussion. Going back to share a sale, Zach Katz, who's actually, Zach, I've used several of your plugins for Gravity Forms. He's asking, what does share a sale do that Affiliate WP doesn't that would make you want to switch?
Well, for one, they handle pretty much the affiliates from the get-go. So they're not coming through necessarily coming through our site, responding to us, talking to us, and not that we don't want to talk to our affiliates. Obviously, we do. But one of the big things is just from a payment standpoint. Right now, I have, Ninja Forms has 70, 80 affiliates. And every month, I have to send a PayPal payment to each of those affiliates, and I have to collect 1099s on all of my U.S. affiliates so that I can properly send them their tax statements at the end of the year. And that's a lot of administrative overhead that ShareSale takes care of all of that stuff for me. So they collect the 1099s. I make ShareSale. I keep a balance at ShareSale, and they pay everybody. I don't have to worry about it. I just keep funds in that to pay affiliates. So there's things like that. I think the administrative side of it is probably the most inviting to me.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I actually, within the week of return from CaboPress, switched from Affiliate WP to Share a Sale. And God bless the people that have been with me for a while, because now this is my third switch in about 3 years. But it's a very small base, and thankfully they like me enough not to scream at me. But yeah, that overhead. That's a lot. Like, I don't want to be collecting tax documents. That's dreadful for me. I don't want to have to do it for my affiliates.
And we already have to do it for our developers. So we have collaborating developers who sell add-ons in our marketplace. So I don't need more. I have quarterly payroll taxes I have to think about. I just don't need another tax thing that I have to be aware of.
I hear you. Wow. It's like the question just fell right out of my head. It was, you mentioned third-party developers, so you do have let other developers sell in your marketplace, or do they have to sell in their own marketplace?
They sell in our marketplace. A matter of fact, that's kind of the exclusive deal. If they want to be considered an official Ninja Forms add-on, we require them to sell through our, because it's really, I mean, while we love the developers that we have, and they have their own personal individual brands as well, we have to protect the Ninja Forms brand, and so we want to be the point of contact for everything as far as that's concerned. But yeah, we have I don't know, but 10 or so collaborating developers who build add-ons. So.
And then how many folks do you actually have that are employees of WP Ninjas?
We currently have, other than my partner Kevin and myself, we have 6 full-time employees, and I actually employ my wife part-time to handle some office management and bookkeeping and stuff like that.
Cool. Question from Robin. And Robin, I just realized I missed your earlier question, so I apologize for that. First, wink, wink, any timeline on 3.0?
Kevin.
Wait, why are you pushing it off to me? So our timeline for having everything done has been December. So that's kind of been our timeline for getting the core Ninja Forms done and all of our extensions. We're still going to try to stick to that as close as we possibly can. For core, we hope to have an alpha out for core in the next 2 weeks or so. So we'll have an alpha so that people can play around with it. It won't have any conversion stuff, so it will be something that you wouldn't want to install on a production side that already has Ninja Forms on it. It would just be a clean install of Ninja Forms, so that we can get it out there and get people using it and get some feedback. So I'd say about 2 weeks on that. I've actually I've been working quite a bit on the admin the past week or so, week and a half. It's turning out really well. But just like in any project, there have been little things crop up that I didn't think about when I was planning, or didn't plan for to take as long as they have. The admin has quite a few animations and things in it that are new for us. And anytime anytime, at least from my perspective, when I've ever had to deal with JS animations or transitions, there's always something that comes up that's wonky that you have to kind of take more time to squish than you would like.
I hear you. Well, you mentioned this is a massive code base overhaul. Does that impact all of your add-ons? Like, are those having to be refactored?
Yeah. So almost all of our add-ons will have to be rebuilt in some way, refactored in some way to be compatible with 3.0.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's a massive rework.
That sounds like it. I hope that they have lots of coffee in Columbus, Tennessee. And another follow-up question from Robin. She's asking, do you review your third-party developers' code?
Yes. So on the initial submission of their extension, I do a code audit, and what I'm looking for more than just, hey, is this thing going to work? So we check for security issues and those kinds of things. And then I kind of try to make recommendations. There have been a couple of our developers who we were their first product. We were the first thing that they built. And so for those developers, I try to make suggestions about how they can make it more efficient and how they can write cleaner code and those kinds of things. Try to make those kinds of suggestions because the dear Lord knows I've made enough mistakes that I've got enough backlog of bad code to point them to and say, don't do this. So we do audit, but it's more of a security and is this going to work audit. I started development at zero, and I don't want to scare anybody by saying, hey, I'm going to audit your code. So the purpose of the audit is not to point out how people have made mistakes and where their code is bad at all. Does that make sense? I kind of rambled there. I'm sorry.
No, it absolutely does. So yeah, your basic QA, making sure that it's not going to conflict with, because when somebody's building an add-on, they're tunnel vision on this one little aspect, but as the developer of the overall project, you may know that might not work with this other thing over here.
Right. And they've been very helpful in developing standards and those kinds of things for third-party developers. So if you're creating a newsletter add-on or whatever, making sure that we have standards so that all of our similar add-ons look the same, feel the same.
That's a key point too, because that's something, especially as you get into people who are using multiples of our add-ons, and this is a big push for Ninja Forms 3.0, is that if you're an agency or you're a freelancer and you have clients, and one client uses MailChimp and one client uses Constant Contact and the other client uses Campaign Monitor, and we have all of these add-ons that do all of these mailing lists, you want them all to work essentially the same. You want them to, because they're all within Ninja Forms. So you want to know that if you're using, somebody who's on Insightly, and then you have a new customer all of a sudden that says, oh, well, we use Salesforce, we need to send our data to Salesforce. Well, if Ninja Forms has a Salesforce add-on, you want to know that it works pretty much the same as Insightly. Now, there may be some different feature sets, but it works the same, so you don't feel like there's this huge learning curve of, oh great, now I got to learn how to integrate with Salesforce. No, you shouldn't have to take that long. So that's a big push that we're doing, is that there's a great consistency across all add-ons, especially similar working or integration add-ons, so that they just all feel the same, so that when you're at an agency, you can just be really, or freelancing, taking on clients, you can just be really excited when somebody wants to use something new, and you go, I got it, I got you covered, and I know I'm going to be able to set it up pretty fast. So, look
at you caring about your customers.
I know, it's to a fault.
Not at all. I think it's awesome. Just heads up, we got about 10 minutes left here together. So for those of you who are tuning in live, you got a little bit of time left to get your question in on Twitter using the hashtag OfficeFM or over on Google+. You can do that via the Q&A. So great question from Devender, and he's asking, would you ever consider going a SaaS model, sort of like Opt-in Monster went from plugin to now a hosted solution?
Kevin, you want to take that one?
I think that one's yours.
Okay, I can take it. So yeah, the truth is, when you're in the WordPress ecosystem, you build a plugin and you have two options to grow that plugin further. You either build, another product, another plugin, and you diversify that way, which is something that we certainly plan on doing. Or you say, how do we get this plugin or this product in the hands of more people? And you can try to grow your market share in the WordPress ecosystem, or you can say, is there any way for us to get outside of that ecosystem and get some of, and build customer base that way? Now, the solution to that is you can go ahead and rebuild a plugin and say, well, we're going to build a Drupal version and we're going to build a Joomla version, and they're standalone unto themselves. Or the smarter thing to do is say, hey, can we turn this into a SaaS, and they can take the code, the snippet of JavaScript or whatever, and put it on any site, whether it be Wix and Weebly or Squarespace or WordPress or Joomla, and it doesn't matter. They can put it in a static site. It doesn't matter. We can handle it from there. So SaaS is a natural progression. I think we're seeing this in the WordPress ecosystem as a whole. It's a natural progression as you move from a product that is growing and is popular, and how do we bid it? So the short answer is yes. We are looking into it. We are considering it. We don't have any immediate plans of like, okay, now, like let's do it. But it's something it is absolutely on our radar, and considering if it's the best move for us as a company.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I think the reason James was trying to pass that off to me, one of the deciding factors in the kind of technologies that we're using to rebuild 3.0 has to do with possible considerations of using a SaaS in the future. So we're using Underscore and Backbone to build a front end, and so when you're building a form in Ninja Forms, it could be decoupled from the PHP backend completely. So the builder doesn't care what is feeding it data. And the front end is also built, like the form display on the front end is also built with Backbone and Underscore, so it doesn't care what engine is serving it. You could put it on anything. It's just consuming and sending JSON data. Yeah.
All right. Well, I that kind of dovetails into the question I was going to ask, is what do you see as the future for Ninja Forms? And it sounds like that's a definite possibility on the horizon. I understand that there's so many considerations from a technical perspective about how do you make that work kind of across the board for multiple different sorts of use cases. But yeah, what else y'all got cooking over there?
Well, there's a few things. Hopefully, once we get 3.0 done and out the door, we're pretty excited about what we think the possibilities of that are. So we'll continue to build on that, build more add-ons, build more integrations, build more powerful applications beyond integration stuff, which we already do a lot of that. But continuing to take that further and showing people how they can use Ninja Forms as their application. User content framework. A perfect example of that is we are building into 3.0, or at least 3.1 or soon, is this idea of being able to do a flat file form, so you don't need the builder at all. So you could hide the builder from your users, or as a plugin require Ninja Forms, as a theme require Ninja Forms, and have a flat file that designates what your form should look like, what actions should fire, how it should work. And so if you have clients on, if you're an agency and you have clients on, a bunch of servers, you can actually deploy that flat file to a bunch of servers and they all get updated. So there's some things like that we're working on to give people more power with their form builder beyond just the builder. Like, we think of form building as this idea of drag and drop, and that's really nice, but really what the form does behind the scenes is where all the power comes from. So making that more available and accessible to people is a big one. Our Ninja Demo product is one that we have a lot of ideas for that we want to push a little further too. So we don't really promote it much. We don't talk about it much. We get tons of people who reach out and say, does this product still exist? Because you've not updated your website in a year. And we're like, we don't have anything to write about, but it still works. So,
it is truly Ninja under the radar, but I mean, that's something that you could sell to I guess to anyone with either like a theme or a plugin to enable customers to demo the product in sort of a live, safe environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a real powerful plugin, but it has implications beyond demos that we hadn't thought of until recently. An example of that is the ability to take a demo site and create three different versions. Say you want to build a restaurant network in your hometown, and that's going to be your thing. You're going to get all these people to pay a subscription. So you create a multi-site, and you have three packages, 19, 29, and 99, and each of them have different plugins and different themes because you know exactly what a restaurant needs, so you know what menu plugin they need, the proper theme templates and stuff, and they can actually go in with the Ninja demo, pick the one that they want, and it'll spin them up a ready-made site with their themes, their plugins, their configurations, their content. All they have to do is make the changes they want, and now you have this site. So it almost creates these mini, I guess WordPress.coms is the best way I can relate to it, where you can spin up sites really fast based on ready-made content for these different niches, and that's just one use case of what the underlying technology underneath Ninja Demo. So there's a lot of stuff that we want to do with that and to kind of build it further, as well as doing things like R&D with products, being able to stick a product like Ninja Forms 3.0 before it's live, put it up there and let people kick the tires, do some A/B testing on feature sets and usability and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and we have probably a handful of other products that we would like to release as well.
Yeah, I think for me at this point, I'm so like neck deep in 3.0 that I'm not able to see much past it. But I feel like one of the things I think that that James and I have a hard time getting across is just the magnitude to which we think 3.0 has the potential to disrupt the current form space, because it's just massively different than 2.9x, and we think it's massively different than any form plugin that's out there, both in terms of what it's going to be able to do under the hood and the way you interact with it. So, for example, it'll be fully mobile responsive, so you could actually build forms from your phone or your tablet and it not feel like torture, like it not feel like you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. It's going to have things like front-end templating. So since we're using underscore as a templating language, we actually will check a theme directory before we output our base templates. So if you're a theme author, you could completely change the way that we output text boxes, for example, and put your own markup in there without touching any PHP. You just write the HTML files, drop them in the directory, and you're done. So lots of really exciting things that I think we're just sort of scratching the surface on that I have a hard time conveying properly.
And those things are already built. Like, those things actually already work. Like, those are in Ninja Forms 3.0 now. We just have to get the builder so that you can actually build a form that benefits from all of that technology. So yeah, I agree. And so anybody who's interested in that, let me just say, you can check out developer.ninjaforms.com. It's a new site that we're just launching to show off the Form API, to talk about the 3 podcasts where we talk about Ninja Forms. We actually show the UI in our last podcast where you can see it in action a little bit, and we're writing some of the challenges that we're having, and that's a great place to kind of get those resources and kind of keep up to date with 3.0.
Share that URL one more time.
It is developer.ninjaforms.com.
Sweet. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. That's just lots of cool stuff that you could do. You guys are awesome. Bill has an excellent question. Considering the massive overhaul that 3.0 is, do you expect any trouble for your existing 2.x customers upgrading?
I guess I'll take this one.
No.
I'll let you handle it if you want, James, but I think it's probably mine.
Well, I'll say the first part of it is, just the very first part of that question is, we always anticipate there's going to be troubles because nothing is foolproof. So we know that's there, but I just want to tell anybody who's concerned, we have a support team that will be ready, willing, and able to get you through the pains if that does occur for you.
And super hyped up on coffee. So on the day that we release 3.0, they'll all be intravenously fed coffee for the whole time period. No, yeah, I think when we had fewer users, right, it's less of a concern. But the more times that you update, and the more times you run anything in software, the more likely you are to find something that breaks. Our goal and our plan is to take at least 2 months to work out all of our backwards compatibility issues. So as soon as we finish with core in the next 2 weeks, one of our developers will spend his whole job will become backwards compatibility and upgrades. So he'll be taking care of that, and the plan is to leave for the things in 2.9x that we aren't just carrying directly over, to let those things degrade gracefully so that you don't lose any functionality that you currently have. For example, we're changing the way that calculations work, because the way we do calculations now is just, it's difficult for the users, because it's not designed very well, and it's very easy to break. For example, it's very easy to divide by 0, and for some reason computers don't want to divide by 0. I can do it all the time, but computers don't want to do it. So we're restructuring that. Well, I mean, I can't do it, but I don't break down and stop working. So we're going to be simplifying that, but because of that simplification process, we're not going to try to convert people's current calculations, because the fear is that we can't anticipate all the ways people are using that. So your current calculations will continue to work in 3.0, but you won't be able to add any of those style calculations to new forms. So if you're using 3.0 and you add a calculation, you'll have to add the new version of calculations. So the old way will still be there if you have it now, but as far as new forms go, it won't be available. So we're going to try to approach backwards compatibility and conversion in that manner, if that makes sense, to keep what's working, or keep what we that's what I meant.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And Bill, thanks for asking that question. Wow, we could keep on going, but we must stop. You must eat. People must get back to their work. But thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing today. I love hearing more about what you guys are doing, and want to keep in touch and see what's going down in the future. So just as a quick wrap up for our listeners, you have been listening to episode 82 with James Laws and Kevin Stover of WP Ninjas. And guys, where can people follow up with you online if they want to say hello?
For Ninja Forums, there's ninjaforums.com, and the company's Twitter handle is @WPNinjas, and you can get a hold of me at jameslaws.com or @JamesLaws on Twitter.
What he said, and I'm @KStover on Twitter, and kstover.codes.
Sweet. Well, as always, you can find me on the Twitters @OfficeHoursFM. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye.